Yeah. Well, everybody, let's get together and start the meeting, please. And since we're mostly standing, let's just remain standing. Okay, and start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the Rotary four-way test, please.
Truth is a fair all concern. Will will be beneficial to all concerned.
Thank you, everyone.
Just,
In the background, and you got to look close.
Stand. Okay.
Well, good morning. I'm going to just cover a couple of brief items before we start the meeting. I just want to comment that we've had a really nice fifth Tuesday last week. I think we had 20 in attendance, which is kind of remarkable considering that it's the primary vacation week of the year, and had a few COVID incidences, which are not issues, but had to work through. We did induct Matt Cowan, was member, and Barry will be sending out a picture. We took a picture of Barry, of Matt and his mom, and Bucky, and I was standing in the background, which is not important. But it's, he's our newest member. It's good, and the significance of that is he is a son of a Rotarian. And for those of you that have been in Rotary for a long time, that was Rotary's main tradition for growth. Is when they started, they limited the membership up to categories. If you were a car dealer, it could only be one car dealer. And they realized not too many years into the process that they built a little wall around themselves that they couldn't grow, so they instituted something called an additional active, and that way the car dealer could bring a child in, and then they broadened that a little bit to allow them to bring a senior employee in if they didn't have children, yada, yada, yada. But this is a tradition that goes back 100 years of Rotary. That is nice to see. And we have another potential new member. Greg Dudley's daughter is back in town, and she's the daughter of a Rotarian. So Greg knows that he's now been scoped in, zeroing in on it a little bit here. And I know Crystal is moving into town. She's been very active in getting their business, their new office started, very active with the Chamber of Commerce, and is either about to or is in her new house that she's.
We still got another 30 to 60.
Well, she's working on getting, renovating a house and moving from, so she's a busy lady, but we're all busy people. And
She's living on Hackberry. That's kind of Rotary headquarters.
That's our neighborhood.
Okay, and then I was just chatting with Jamie this morning. Barry Barr, our new public information officer, which is a big thing these days, has been very active in getting Orange Rotary Club information into the district newsletter. And for the last couple of months, we have had a feature article, and they're always looking for something to do anyhow, so it's good. But the question came up is, are all of the members getting their copy? Do you recall getting an email? You get one.
Yeah.
Okay, if you get one, everybody's getting one. If you go on DAC DB, you get in the program, you're supposed to automatically get the district newsletter. And all I'm suggesting today, and I'll put a note out on the email, just to take a look at it. I honestly never looked at it. But now that I think we're going to get some activity, it's going to be worthwhile. And they published, for example, the article almost verbatim from the Orange Review in the district newsletter. So that's an accomplishment and a nice push for rural Virginia, which they never seem to know where it is. Speaking of Barry Barr, he's back from Maine. He's feeling well. He is in quarantine because he's going to have surgery next week. He's going to get a new hip. And under the existing COVID rules for a year ago, he has to take a test, I think, maybe tomorrow. And from that point on, he's out of circulation for a while until he gets his hip. I got a new shoulder last year and had to drive to Charlottesville Sunday before a Thursday surgery. to get a COVID-19 test. Wouldn't let me do it in Orange. I had to go to their Martha Jefferson Hospital. Specific thing, I had an appointment and it was done professionally. And the next day I was going to know that I could either have surgery or it was put off because I was sick. So life is changing. Honestly, at our recent board meeting, we sat around thinking of a year ago board meeting, and the thing that's just blossomed was the COVID issue had just kind of become an international panic. And we can remember saying a month or so ago, said, maybe we'll have a new year, a different year. Well, that's all changed, and and maybe we'll still have. We had a great year last year under all the confines of COVID, but and we all agreed that since none of us have any control over what happens, we're just going to be good boys and girls and do what we're supposed to do. And speaking of that, as a matter of interest, Rotary just put out a notice, I guess it was just last week maybe, that they now are suggesting that all Rotary meetings be masked up. So I have my mask, if anybody's concerned about it. I'm not so sure at this point we have to worry about it yet, but it's one of those things that's just going to happen, and we need to be aware of it, and I think take the side of caution. I mean, we're all mostly older people, and I just think we have to sort of play by the rules. My wife and I don't always agree on those rules, but we have agreed that for the betterment of the community, we got to play the game. So with that, I'm happy to turn the program over to our very industrious program chairman.
Yeah. We've been waiting 3 months for this program.
Yes.
You said that Liz and Peter were interested in speaking to our club back in April or May. And we would have done it in August, but Peter was away. But anyway, delighted to have you here today. So I do have my bag, which I believe I bought it from Peter, and it was in 2018 at the Gordonsville Street Fair. Yeah, and I've got to commend Peter for his persistence, his tenacity, his passion. Now Liz is just adding fuel to the fire. So thank you for coming, and very excited about where you've gotten so far and the potential to create recreational trails for a lot of the county. It is our side.
Well, we're happy to be here and have a chance to chat with everybody. I think I've met everybody in the room, or already knew everybody anyway. But Rotary is am I in the right place, Jamie, for the mic?
Yep.
Rotary is a great audience for us to talk to because you have such a long tradition of doing things that make a positive impact on the community. So I think you all know me. I'm Liz Samra. I'm a member of Gordonsville Town Council, and Peter is the regional representative for Piedmont Environmental Council. But we're also founding members of a group called Town to Trail. So I'll give you a little bit of history. In 2017, a group of graduate students from the University of Virginia School of Architecture came to Gordonsville as a charrette. And they spent the fall semester having some community meetings, doing a lot of interviews, reading the comprehensive plan, and learning a lot about the community. And they produced a document called Gordonsville Vision. Let's see if I can do this correctly. The other way? Okay, Peter. The arrow's not working. Special touch.
I'm not sure. Is it because of this? Maybe. I was just using the up and down arrows. Let's see if it does it.
I'm up page down.
So while they get that going,
Or you could do
Gordonsville
enter, try
Vision was the
enter.
work
I did,
product
I
that
did.
they produced. And because of all of the discussions that had occurred during this time and all of the
you go.
enthusiasm that was developed, when we
just
looked
clicked
at
on
Gordonsville Vision, there were a couple of pages that
Just
really
click
sparked
post.
our interest.
it. Here, I
And
got it.
those had to do with enhancing the welfare of citizens by access to green space. There we go. Page 11 and 13, perfect pages out of that Gordonsville Vision document. So over time, a group of neighbors and friends and local businesses got together, and we formed a group as a working group of PEC to focus on renewing parks and on trails connecting to the community. And this group became known as Town to Trail. You know, at the point when we did this, the pandemic had not hit. And we didn't know that there was going to be so much additional increased interest in getting outside for not only the physical well-being, but emotional well-being. So that was an important aspect that has come into play as well. We've made a lot of progress. In the last couple of years, we've worked really closely with the town of Gordonsville, and we've expanded the footprint of the park. Peter's going to talk a lot more about that. And I think what you're going to see is that not only are these things things that make the community more resilient, but they're things that can increase the outdoor recreation opportunities in Orange County and impact our rural economy. So Peter, I'll let you get into some more detail on this.
Sure. So there's two components to Town to Trail. The town part is the expanding the park. And then the trail is, I had worked with Kat Imhoff and when she was president of Montpelier, and Dan Gray, who owns Growlin, and helped get the trails going between Montpelier and Growlin. And Dan and I thought it'd be great to try to see if we could extend that trail system. So this is just a map of, here's Gordonsville, and the green area along Highway 15, that's the ridge line that parallels the highway. And all the green lands are privately conserved with conservation easements. So it's a largely protected landscape. Let's see. So a lot of communities are, you know, improving parks and trails. You know, within the conservation community, there's a concern that all of us are spending a lot more time on screens these days and not outside as much, especially kids. So there's, you know, a lot of people who are in the conservation field spent a lot of time growing up outside, and, you know, there's concern that, you know, the upcoming generations aren't having that benefit. Also, you know, there's the health and wellness benefits that Liz talked about. And then a lot of communities are doing these kind of projects to promote economic growth. It's amazing like how many people trails and good parks can attract. So this is at Montpelier. It's hard to see. This was in white font, but I guess the format changed with this system. But so we're again focusing on two parts: the trail and the park. And we, like I said, we have a head start with the trails that we worked at Montpelier and Growlin, and those started in 2015, and they were really well received by the community. The following year, we received an award from the governor's office, and this is just a map of the trails. So the Montpelier section over here, and then the Growlin section over there. We got involved because we have an easement over Chicken Mountain there. And since this map was developed, the trails have expanded. So there's close to 15 miles of trails now over there.
Peter, how long is the walk from Montpelier to Growlin now?
that one piece of trail?
It's about 1.5 miles, so if you do round trip, it's like 3 miles. So like I said, in 2016, the governor's office gave us this award as an outstanding recreational site. And First Lady McAuliffe came out and hiked the trail with us. It was pretty fun. And so now we're kind of looking at just over the last 1.5 years, we've done trail assessments between Gordonsville and Montpelier, and then we've started one between Montpelier and Orange. So that it's, it's kind of a delicate situation. The assessments are, where we're working with private landowners, and the concept is, in order to make this work, the landowners have to be on board and be willing to allow the trail. And so what we're looking at is, we have this trail consultant that I'm working with. He's developed trails all over the country, and he's a pro at this. I've been learning so much from him about trails. But kind of the concept that we're pursuing is that we're trying to string the trail along property boundaries so that it doesn't bisect anyone's land. And there's a lot that goes into trail design. So we're kind of looking at a shared use trail. So it would be hiking and mountain biking. And in order to do that, you have to have the right grades and sight lines. And one of the things that, I learned from the trail consultant is that's, I think, really pretty neat in terms of the design, is that you look at positive control points. So there are things that you want users to experience. So different views, maybe different natural features like rock outcroppings, things like that. And you try to design the trail so that users can take advantage of those. And then there's also negative control points. So there are things that you don't want trail users to even know that are out there, like maybe houses or buildings. And so then you carefully design the trail so people don't see those structures or areas. Maybe there's rare plants or something, and you don't want activities, so you route around that. And the whole idea is, in terms of designing a trail, is you maximize the user experience, and then safety as well. And then a lot of trails around the area haven't really been designed or constructed, and over time there's a lot of erosion issues and maintenance costs. So if we're proactive in terms of designing it and actually developing it, then we can minimize those costs. So the second part is the park. And just over the last 2 years, we've worked really closely with town council, and we've acquired 4 different parcels. So the town's acquired 2. We helped raise money for those 2 parcels, and then we ourselves have bought 2. So this is the original Verling Park, and the only part that the town actually owned was the parcel where the pool is located, and that was built in the 1950s. This part of the park, where the shelter and the playground is, if you're familiar with the park, that was actually owned by CSX, the railroad company. So when we got serious about updating the park infrastructure and was doing deed research, we realized the town didn't actually own that outright. So a couple of years ago they bought that, and then the very first parcel we bought was helped the town buy was this corner parcel, and there was a old house there that was in poor condition, and a lot of people enter the park from this side, and so it kind of opens that whole access corridor, and it expands the park to an entire town block. And then the UVA students had identified this parcel right here. It's right across the road from the fairgrounds, and it's a vacant lot. So that was our first outright purchase. And while we were doing that acquisition, this parcel came on the market, and both are oversized parcels. I think the original concept by the students was to just put sidewalks along one of the cross streets to connect the park and fairgrounds. But once this came on the market and we saw the potential, we were fortunate enough to raise funding to acquire that. And so now there's a really nice connection between the park and the fairgrounds. So we just acquired this last fall. And so the park and the connector parcels are about 4 acres now. And if you put in the Fireman's Fairgrounds, that's another 6. So altogether, there's 6 acres of open space right off of Main Street.
About 10 acres combined.
Yeah, 10 acres combined.
And the other thing, Peter, if I could interrupt.
Sure.
The 2 connecting parcels that we have acquired, when they were surveyed, we were delighted to learn that they overlap by 57 feet, which gives us a lot of opportunity to create that flow and connectivity.
Yeah, and I think this, it's actually more than I drew on here.
It's 57 feet, it's beautiful.
Yeah, so, yeah. And I love this picture because it shows the rural context, of Gordonsville. A lot of times you don't see that when you're on Main Street, but you can see, the hills right there. This is again, the ridge line that parallels 15. And that's,
So let me be your Vanna here, okay? This is Main Street right here.
Yeah.
And so we're a block before you get to the park area. This is the florist, come under the railroad trestle from Main Street. Here's the downtown area. Go that way, you're at the park. So it's the central part of Gordonsville.
Right.
So again, the pool was, developed in the 1950s, and it was all through private effort. It wasn't a town project. And once we kind of started working on this, we realized, it's really our generation's turn to step in and do like, the early residents did in terms of actually creating this. And there was even a separate nonprofit that ran the pool for a few years, and I think they put in a tennis court. So, we think there's really good opportunity to kind of update things. And then again, this is the ridge line where we're looking at the trail. So this is just a schematic. It's not a design set in stone. It was just a rendering to give people ideas of, what the park could look like. So we're kind of envisioning, walking trails. And then the volunteer fire company owns the fairgrounds, so that, they still need to use that for training and for their use. So whatever happens over there is, completely up to them. We're willing to assist if they want to get involved, but they've been really good in terms of allowing the Little League to play ball there, and the community to host events. So one of the features in this rendering is just a lot of increased parking. So on the side streets, on the parcels that we acquired, and then around the perimeter of the park. So, if people park here and there's events at the fairgrounds, people could just walk over there. Or if there's a swim meet at the pool, then people can walk over that way. And we are looking at replacing the current pool with a regulation size pool. So, and then one fun fact about the pool is it's the only public pool between Charlottesville and Fredericksburg. So the one in Orange is a private pool. So
That's where kids learn to swim. This
Yeah.
is water safety. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to have the pool open for the last 2 years because of COVID and the pool can't meet the health requirements to open a public pool. But with a new pool, that will be a totally different story.
So this is just pointing out the acquisitions. So those are the town acquisitions and then our acquisitions. This is just a view of the trail at Groen, and just in terms of economic impact, Dan and Greg, you know, in the early years of the trail opening, his market manager would interact with all the customers, and they estimated that just trail users alone increased their business by 10% at the market, which is, you know, pretty substantial because they make quite a bit of money. And you know, you look at 10% and you think about that like in terms of like the towns, like if we can get a bigger trail system going, if you know all businesses could bump by 10%, that's pretty significant. So you know, we've passed through the first phase, the acquisition phase. So now we're working to design and raise money to design and then construct the park. Just recently, the town manager released a request for proposals among landscape architect firms. So we'll get the planning process going for that, and there'll be plenty of opportunities for community input. We want, you know, it to be something that all, you know, residents and members of the area, the county value. And that's all we have.
What is the process you're going through to try to build a continuous trail? You know, obviously you've got the private landowners, but in terms of county and Orange cooperation from those.
Yeah, we knew that it wouldn't work without, you know, the private landowners on board. So we're working, you know, closely with them, and we're just nearing the end of our assessment between Gordonsville and Montpelier, and we have a corridor that we think will work for everyone based on, you know, initial discussions with everyone. So we're gonna circle back now and just kind of show folks, you know, what we've come up with, and just make sure it works for everyone. And then we've started the same process between Montpelier and Orange. We're not as far along, but you know, we're there. The section between Gordonsville and Montpelier would be about 12 miles. And then if we can get the Montpelier to Orange section, it would be another 8. So if we got both sections, that would be 20, you know, miles of trail that would connect to the existing 15 or so. Yeah, we want to get through this initial step in terms of working with the landowners before we bring the county into it. But in the past, you know, other trails have been explored, but they haven't worked closely with landowners, and then, you know, landowners find out about it and it just kind of blows up. So we're trying to avoid that. But you know, the next step then, if it is a go, it would be developing trail specific easements with the landowners, and we would do that concurrently with a final trail design. So we have about a quarter-mile wide corridor that we think will work, and then the final design would narrow that down, and then the easements would go right up, you know, where the trail runs.
How many separate landowners are you dealing with?
There's about 15 between Gordonsville and Montpelier, and then depending on the route, from Montpelier to Orange, it will be less. It will be, it could be as little as 5. It could be, if we can't make that work, then it will be more. So, yeah.
What part of Grelin would you be connecting to with Gordonsville leg? Where is that?
So that it would cut through, there's, let's see, there's, right, it would cut through kind of right by Chicken Mountain Road.
Oh, okay.
So it's you know, one thing that's really different about this trail is, you know, most trails that we go to are like, you know, at Shenandoah National Park, you drive there, you park in a gravel parking lot, and then you hike. You know, the benefit, if we can get this going, you know, it'll give business to the bed and breakfast, or if you live in town, you know, you can just walk to the edge of town and hit the trail. So as you know, properties change hand, there's, you know, opportunity to attract, you know, younger families. And you know, a lot of people, especially with those who can work remotely now, you know, I think we've got a really good opportunity to pull in some of those people if we have this kind of project. So
Yeah, I love to go out and bike on my mountain bike, and this area sucks, you know. I mean, in terms
That's what we're here.
Yeah, right, yeah,
A lot.
yeah,
riding on roads and all that sort of thing. And it's going from Orange to Gordonsville is horrible on 15.
yeah,
You got all the cuts, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's still better than Route 20.
Yeah, well, that's probably true too. Yeah, well, that's really interesting. I mean, have you thought about some, you know, kind of as the final leg of the triangle, a Gordonsville Orange trail?
yeah. So we are just starting that assessment, and that would be about 8 miles more. And yeah, so Ellen, in terms of where we're trying to come through there, like over Chicken Mountain, there we would probably have a, you know, go up to close to Chicken Mountain, and it would branch, so you could go to Montpelier or Grelin, and then yeah.
So meet up where Chicken Mountain goes right through the Montpelier and Grelin trailheads.
Yeah, it would probably, like, right before that spot, it would branch, so it would and go into the existing trails. Yeah, and another thing that's, you know, unique about this, if we can make it work, is there's not a lot of like landscapes like this that you can actually hike, where you can see, you know, farms, and that's what's really kind of special about the Chicken Mountain section. There's like this hidden valley back there, and it's you know, there's just a couple landowners, and both those landowners are really gung-ho about the trail. And yeah, I have to commend the landowners too, because they've been the greatest group of folks to work with, really community minded. You know, we encountered maybe 3 to 5 no's, but everyone was really polite and diplomatic about it, and, you know, talking, and then we just, you know, we rerouted around those, and then everyone else, you know, seems to be on board. You know, the devil is always in the details, but yeah. So
Wow.
Peter, have you been able to pencil in some possibilities between Gordonsville and Montpelier? That, I mean, I know you're early on and haven't.
yeah, we do have we have a corridor that's mapped out, and we haven't shared it publicly because we haven't shared it with landowners yet, but we developed it based on landowner input and, you know, where they thought it would work best for them. So now we're gonna go back this fall and kind of start, you know, getting serious.
Is the Piedmont Environmental Council, is that a private organization, or is it part of, you know, state government, or what?
It's private, yeah, private nonprofit. And there has been some talk about like spinning town to trail off as a separate 501c3, and I think that would be really, pretty powerful if there's a local nonprofit in, the board is made up of, some of the folks on the trail, and just so that it's locally governed and managed and can be responsive, to everyone. So we're looking at that. So.
Realizing that you're real early on in this, do you have a sense, I know this isn't your first trail you've worked on, but do you have a sense that it's a doable thing, having spoken with the landowners that are significant? I mean, or do you see big red spots where you're going to have to go against somebody who just simply doesn't want to have anything to do with it?
We've routed around, all the hard no's. So I think it's doable. The challenge is that, it's such a dynamic real estate market right now.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's, 2 properties, one where the landowner is gung ho about the trail, and that property is on the market. And so, we're kind of dodging bullets in a sense. Like, I think we really have a kind of a brief window of opportunity to make this happen. The other thing that we have going for us is that, a lot of the folks that live up there remember when that landscape was open and folks were able to ride from property to property. It wasn't public, but, within neighbors that was allowed. And, now people there's a lot of fences and some people aren't allowing that. So we see this as like, a good compromise solution, but there is that memory of, a long time folks, living in the area to be able to explore that landscape. So we're hoping that we can make this work and keep that part of the community. So.
Do you have a goal for a completion date for the Gordonsville to Montpelier piece?
We don't have a goal, but we are, some funders are really interested in what we're doing, and I think that we'll be able to secure the funding that we need. And in the best case scenario, I think we would get it done in 3 years. So 3 years.
Yeah.
So like
how much money is it for?
For the the whole thing, it's about, with the park and the pool is a big ticket item. And the park is expensive, but we're looking at about $6 million.
So, can you sort of describe the value prop to the landowners along the trail, other than being a good citizen kind of a thing? I mean,
Well, one, all the landowners would have access to that trail. And there is, a lot of research in terms of where this is these kind of projects have been done in other parts of the country that real estate prices increase. And in fact, a lot of newer developments like out west or even in the south, they're incorporating trails. It's hard, to find. I guess like in North Carolina now, that's the biggest thing is, all new developments have trails. And, so I think, people are looking for the opportunity to just kind of be out the back door and on a trail and not have to drive somewhere. That's, the benefit too, if we can make this happen and be really convenient access to, everyone that lives in Gordonsville or Orange too. So
I used to live in Minneapolis, and as a testament to how trails can bring communities together, any day, on any given Sunday, all the lakes are connected by lake trails, right?
yeah,
Whether bicyclers or rollerbladers or walkers or hikers, it's just amazing what, and those folks are good outdoor folks, so.
Yeah.
It's vibrant.
I grew up in nearby Wisconsin, and my family has a cabin in northern Wisconsin on a lake, and it used to be kind of like a fishing community, and there's not as many people that fish anymore, but it's kind of like Minnesota where there's literally thousands of lakes, and in all the resort communities in the last 10 to 15 years, they've developed bike trails that connect them. And one community, I was talking to some business owners, not this past summer, but the previous summer, kind of right at the height of the pandemic. And they said that local revenue doubled during that time because everyone was going up to their cabins and, self-quarantining up there. So it was a really, the local economy did really well. And you wouldn't know that, there's quite a few people up there, but, everyone's either on the lake or on the trail. You don't have huge crowds. It's pretty amazing.
Are there any, old rail easements available in the county that you know of? Or I know there's trails organization.
Yeah.
They've done a lot of trails.
Yeah, that's, I know people have looked at that all our rail corridors are active in Orange County. People have looked at trying to work with the railroad companies to parallel within the rail right away, but that hasn't, the rail companies have been reluctant to do that. I think like that, there's a spur that comes into Orange, and part of that, actually went to the old depot, but up by let's see, the market there, the farmers market. I'm blanking on the name. With the one right by Orange Tire. Darnell's, yeah. There is a spur there that isn't, that we might be able to use like the tail end of it. So part of it, it actually used to cross the road there, and that part was decommissioned, and there's more of it that might.
I love trails, but there was a trail put in on an old rail easement, west of Philadelphia, and it was just horrible because it actually went through people's front yards and whatever. I can't imagine.
Do they allow bicycles on the Montpelier to Garland Trail?
They don't currently, but again, like the consultant that we're working with, he knows like how to make, if you're doing a shared use trails, what kind of grades and sight lines you need and width of the trail so there isn't user conflict between bikers and hikers. So it's pretty amazing how much thought goes into those kind of things. So yeah.
Your community garden in Gordonsville, is that part of the park?
It is not. The community garden was gifted to the town, and it's actually on the Fireman's Fairground. And Willow Drinkwater is very active in that community garden. Bruce and Jacqueline Gupton's grandson created that community garden as part of his outreach to the community when he was flying college. And so the town has been the beneficiary of that.
I drove by yesterday. It's amazing what's going on there.
It is very nice. And it does have a gate, but the gate is not locked. So you're totally welcome to come in and harvest or pick a weed or.
I'm interested. The Orange Office on Youth. All about healthy eating with young people and kids. And Orange Baptist Church has 28 acres just north of town, and we're developing. It won't be a community garden, but it's a garden that will help supplement the food bank.
Most of the harvest from this garden does go to the local food banks.
We're just getting up and we just got water tapped onto the town water this past week through a grant from the Dave Matthews Band.
Oh, that's great.
Excellent.
And we've got it fenced, keep the deer out, and so a little projects moving along.
That's nice, that's nice. There is a Facebook page for the community garden of Gordonsville, so perhaps there's an opportunity to connect the organizations.
Go look at that.
Yeah, they're often sharing gardening tips and talking about what's in season, and what can harvest and how to harvest, and all sorts of good things.
Yeah, just in terms of like our budget so far, like we have a pretty good track record in terms of attracting resources. We've between, you know, what the town's put into their acquisitions and what we've been able to raise for ours, it's mostly private, but we did get $100,000 grant from the state. And if you look at, you know, what everyone's put in so far, it's been about 600,000. So
That's great.
yeah. So
What is the actual track that you're looking at between Montpelier and Orange? If you were heading from Montpelier to Orange, would you be on the right side of the road or the left side of the road? Because it'll be on 20, I presume.
no, it's the ridge line that parallels 15. So it will be like below the ridge top, and it will be so if you took Chicken Mountain Road to 15 and then down 15, it would it'd be on that
15
side. Yeah, the west side of
I've always wanted to go up there actually, because above the Honolulu Vineyard and all.
yeah,
that.
yeah, right along there.
Oh, cool. So it
Yeah.
wouldn't really be close to the road. It would be completely off.
Yeah, so a lot of it's forested, but there's, you know, good views of the farmland, and the part between Chicken Mountain and that ridge will be interesting because there's, again, that hidden valley that most people have never seen. But then there's some really spectacular views of the coastal plain too. You can just see that. So yeah,
Wow.
I think it'd be a really unique trail, a unique landscape. So hopefully we can make it work. So.
We live in such a gorgeous part of the country, and
Yeah, we do.
it's really convenient for a lot of areas for people to come and visit, so it can make a big economic impact for us.
How much rail activity is there through Gordonsville on a daily basis?
There's a lot because there's still 2 different active rail lines, but yeah, I live about a block away, so I hear the train.
How many trains do we get, Tony? 3, 4? About 4.
Thankfully, they can't blow their horns after 10 o'clock. And
That's
force
right.
them.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Is it mostly Amtrak coming through or freight?
CSX and Buckingham.
Buckingham, right?
Mhm.
There's got to be like 20 trains a day coming through Orange.
Yeah, if you look at kind of the history of transportation has always made, you know, communities economically viable. And that's when Gordonsville really took off, when the 2 railroads came in there. And kind of the new trend is trails. Like if you have walking trails, you know, another form of transportation, that's really where a lot of new economic activity is
I just have one more question.
Sure.
How important at this stage of what you're doing is public awareness? Is that important right now, or is that sort of premature to be wanting to build like public support?
I think like for the park, we're ready, you know, for that. And, you know, a lot of people are really excited about it, you know, especially Gordonsville residents, but it's really surprising at how many people use the pool and the park. People from Richmond and things will meet friends, you know, that's a halfway point and have a picnic in the park. But the pool attracts a lot of people from all over.
Because there's such a shortage of public pools, the pool really attracts people from Charlottesville and Madison and all over. It's been sad that we haven't been able to have it open the last 2 years, but I'd say it is the only public pool within that radius, so a lot of people have learned to swim there and they have fond memories. It was part of the Jefferson Swim League and was grandfathered in and able to have swim teams, even though the meets had to be held somewhere else. When it's been closed the last 2 years, we've kind of lost that grandfathering status. So the pool needs to be replaced with a regulation pool that will allow for swim teams. So that's a high priority for our park renovation.
Sure.
We did have community meetings in 2018. We had a lot of community meetings with community input, and that's gone into the request for proposal that's gone to the landscape designers. So we're starting that process, and we'll see where it takes us.
Yes, yeah, so Ellen, I think like to your point, like the park, the town is really ready to go on that. It's just a matter of final design and then raising the money. The trail, we're still, we're not quite there yet, word's starting to get out, but we still have a lot of work behind the scenes that we have to do before we're more public about it, so.
So what would it take to expedite the Montpelier Orange Trail?
It's just a matter of time. I mean, the trail consultant that we've been working with, he's in high demand, and he's just, it's amazing how many communities are, looking at these kind of projects. And so the limiting factor there is his time and my time, but we're trying to get, part of the fundraising goal is to make it so I can dedicate all my time on this, because it is quite a bit of work, so we'll see.
Well, it's interesting, it's kind of fascinating. I asked myself, what kind of a role does Rotary play, or where can we play, what kind of a role, just thinking out of the box, so to speak. We had a nice talk sometime back by a fellow named Al Weed from Nelson County, who spoke very strongly about their position to limit industrial growth, but in lieu of that, how to pay for the county's needs, and they do it with tourism. And they have built apparently a tremendous infrastructure. I know nothing of this firsthand, but just his comments that his push was for the Rapidan River. He's part of the Mike Collins group at the Rapidan River, and of course that's here, this end of the county. And just was explaining how incredibly valuable it can be economically. And at the end of the day, sadly maybe, so much of what we talk about comes down to economics. And while you may not be able to sell some hard-headed landowner, that's not a good word, but you know what I'm saying. I don't mean to sound that as a negative thing, but my jest here is that to sell these kind of things, it helps if you can show some economic gain. And it's maybe hard to say, well, hundreds of people riding bicycles back and forth between Montpelier and Orange is an economic factor. Actually, the comments you made earlier, where I believe that the Grellen said they saw a 10% increase in their, that's real. That's something you can put your hands on, and a guy like Dan Gray can get up and say, this is what happened to me, and these are my numbers. And I think that speaks very strongly when you've got to go to some group of people like the supervisors and so forth and say, are you?
And they
so back to Rotary, and the question we always have after nice presentations like you just made, what do we do? And I guess we don't know today what we can do, but in my mind at least, and I know I speak for most of the members, is that Rotary is interested in the big picture. What's the overall good for the community? And obviously, we don't sit on millions of dollars worth of funds, so you didn't come here to sell it to us. But what we'd like you to leave with this meeting with is know that we're behind you on this thing. And
I really appreciate that.
What you need to do to us is tell us what we need to do, what part we need to push, where we can help, perhaps where we should stay away. Don't get involved, because we have some other people that are trying to do it, and we don't want to be doing one of these kind of things. So, but I think it's a fascinating presentation, and Gordonsville is an important part of Orange County. I go through it almost once a week, going to the track between our farm and Richmond, where all our kids live. And there are other ways we could go. That are just as fast. Union going around, but somehow we gravitate to going through Gordonsville now that we have a peacock blue door to look at every time. Say, well, there's that guy right there. So anyhow.
We love Gordonsville, and our projects did start in Gordonsville, but our vision is really an Orange County vision. It's really a western part of Orange County more. The eastern part of Orange County is developing with a pull from Fredericksburg and all of that. There's a different economic vibe going there, but this Orange to Gordonsville to Barboursville, kind of western part of the county is more of our focus at this point. But we have a long-term vision for our organization. When we get together, we can blue sky about where we want to be, and you just need to take it a bite at a time. Finances are always important. I would encourage you that whatever you think you would like to do, that you earmark those funds specifically to what you would like to do. Because I think it's important for you to be able to look at something and say, this was Rotary's contribution. So there are many ways that you can do that. As the park becomes developed, there will be opportunities for naming things. Whether it's putting your name on a bench or putting your name on a shelter or contributing to a playground or whatever you choose to do. With the trails, there's certainly opportunities to contribute financially to that and have recognition for those contributions. So it depends on what the membership would like to do and to what scale.
Well, in closing, if you'll allow me to put my Rotary hat back on, our club is very interested in developing membership from the Gordonsville and Barboursville. We do now have some representation of these and now the Samras. And so if you, Liz and Tony, know of people that should be a part of Rotary, please get in touch with us and we'll do the footwork. But I'd like to include you in that. I think Peter. There's one right there. Well,
there's a target for you.
I was holding back the last. He can't get out. He can't get out of the room till he signs on the bottom.
The membership comes with cheese curds.
I got one question to mind. Bill Hager here, you have some tie-ins with the county economic development. I'm just curious whether there's an angle with that could help, this kind of project.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It all blends so well. I mean, all the work they're doing around Orange now, the connection, it's just all so compatible and symbiotic, and it's exciting where I see these two towns and county going.
Well, it's what I call the wraparound effect. I mean, you get everybody kind of in sync, and generally you don't expect everybody to agree, but just get in this middle where we can all speak comfortably and agree to disagree and so forth, and then function as a team. Is a silly word, but you know what I'm saying. It's a cohesive group of people. How do we get the county better? How do we fix the things that are broken if we can? How do we make a county that's fundamentally not broken better? So, with everybody, thanks for a great meeting.
And we have a presentation. We have a presentation.
Oh, I do. I'm sorry.
You think it's okay to make this presentation without a mask on? I do like, I made it, but I'm probably not today. To you, may you drink in good health.
These are great.
Thank you very much. I was doing that on purpose.
I know, well, it sounded like you're scratching.
Putting my
phone.
breath away.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Just real quickly, our next meeting is here in 2 weeks. It's a business meeting. And the feature is going to be the Christmas parade. And what we have to do to get ready for that, that's coming up very quickly.
I think I find one.
And I will extend an invitation to anybody who wants to come to my house at 10 o'clock. Mike Collins and Buzz and Sanford and I are looking at my meadow, and we've invited my neighbors to come too, because we're looking at my meadow to also see about getting neighbors, contiguous neighbors to develop.